In college algebra, we worked on solving quadratics with the square root method and completing the square. For the square root method, it should be really familiar. You want to get the x squared term, or let me add to this, whatever term, oops, is squared. That'll come up in our second example. You want to get that term all by itself. So, for example, on example 2a, I need this x squared all by itself. All right, so I need to get rid of the 4. So to do that, you guys are pretty familiar with this. Divide both sides by 4. And we end up with x squared equals 5. Now, once again, whenever we solve this thing, you could do the quadratic formula. I guess you could do a form of factoring, but that wouldn't be fun. We are only going over square root method on this problem. So to do that, you square root both sides. I'm going to rewrite it again so y'all can see every individual step. When you create that square root symbol, you got to put a plus or minus in front. And our final answer is what we already wrote on the right side. Because when you type that in, you get a super long decimal. Another way to write this is x equals positive square root of 5 or negative square root of 5. I like to write it shorthand like this right here. That way you only have to write it once. All right, let's try another one. On step 1, I need to get the x squared term by itself, or whatever is squared. So step 1 is already done. That term right there that I circled is the squared term. All you have to do at this point is square root both sides. You need to put a plus or minus in front. And the nice thing is when you square root a square, you get just the inside left over. And then you're very close to done. Let's get x by itself. Let's add 2 to both sides. And one equation, let me back up actually, looks like this. And one equation looks like this. So let's add 2 to both sides and we will be done. There's one answer. Because I can't square root 6, I get a monstrous decimal. Or 2 minus square root of 6. So both of those are good. All right. All right, let's move to completing the square. A little harder. Some people prefer completing the square. Other people hate it because it's just so weird. All right, what we are going to do is we are going to take the term or the coefficient in front of the x, half it and square it. So if I have a quadratic situation like this, I need to take this number right here, I need to half it and square it, and we need to add, let's add to the instructions, add that value to both sides. And it creates a really nice situation where you can factor. So this is like the combination of all the methods. We'll end up factoring, we'll end up square rooting. Some people like it, some people don't. So let's do example 3. I'm going to do it up here. So I'm looking at x squared plus 8x equals 0. Now if you're confused because it doesn't really look like the one on the left, there's really a 0 right here. We just don't have to write it. So like the c term, that's 0. This means that b is 8. which means b over 2 is 4. And then b over 2 squared is 16. So look at step 1. Look at what I added to the description. No pun there. I need to add 16 to both sides. So I have this right now. I need to add 16 to both sides. And now I have a really nice situation that I can factor. I want to factor this right here. I need two numbers that multiply to 16 but add to 8. And it's typically, if you do it right, it's b over 2, which was 4. Then I can combine those two parentheses, because they're the same thing, into x plus 4 squared, and then use what we just learned a second ago, square root both sides. All right, once you get that far, we are almost done. We have x plus 4 equals a positive 4, or we have x plus 4 equals a negative 4. In this case, x equals 0, and then in this case, x equals negative 8. All right, let's try example 4. I'm going to erase all this, and we'll give it a shot. So example 4, this one looks a little bit different because we have a 2. So teachers teach this in many different ways. I teach to go ahead and find that b over 2 squared. So b is negative 6. B over 2 is negative 3. So b over 2 squared is 9. So I need a 9 on both sides of the equal sign. And what I want to do first is I want that 2 out of the way. So I like to move that 2 over here because I want that to be a 9. Some people are clever and they see that we could maybe add a different number other than 9 instead of moving the 2. I'm not even going to say it because I don't want to confuse anyone. But I want that 2 out of the way so that I can add a 9 to both sides. Now, if you're wondering how, maybe I didn't answer it before, how are we able to add something to both sides? Well, remember, that's your fundamental Algebra 1 rule. You can add anything you want to one side as long as you do it to the other side. It keeps it in balance. And now we can factor the left side. I need to factor this. I need two numbers that multiply to 9 but add up to negative 6. And then I can write that twice. And once you're this far, you're practically done. Square root both sides. And we have one answer that looks like this. And we have another answer that looks like this. All right, I hope that made sense. I will see y'all later.